Isabella Grant boarded the flight with that heavy, graceful exhaustion only single mothers know. One hand gripped her son Aiden's wrist like a lifeline. The other pulled their battered suitcase, its zipper sewn shut with fishing line. Terminal 4 was a blur behind them, and she was praying the airline wouldn't ask why her passport was dog-eared like a library book or why Aiden's ticket had been booked with airline miles scrounged from survey websites and donated credit card points. Seat 28B, middle row. No window, no silence, and definitely no luxury. But she didn't care. All that mattered was that Aiden got to Zurich. It was the only place left where she could restart, where someone from her past promised a job that hadn't been real the first 3 times, but maybe this time, maybe, she could breathe again. Aiden, 6 years old, too smart for his size and way too quiet for his age, kept peeking through the seat gaps. He hadn't had a proper home in 8 months. Motels, hostels, couch corners. Still, he clung to her with that same raw trust children give the sky, as if no matter how turbulent it got, it would hold them. As passengers continued to board, Isabella tried to help an older couple across the aisle with their bags. She spoke French to the woman, who responded gratefully, then turned around and translated for her husband in German. When a confused young man in front couldn't understand the flight attendant's Spanish, Isabella leaned over and clarified in soft, precise Latin American dialect. She didn't even notice the men watching her from 1A. Miles Carter didn't belong on commercial flights, not anymore. Not after Forbes put him on the self-made billionaire at 30 list. He usually flew private, but Zurich required surprise. His team didn't know he was coming. He liked it that way. Liked seeing things himself. Liked reminding himself what real looked like. He watched the woman from row 28 with quiet focus. It started with the French. Clean accent, Parisian with a faint Canadian hue. Then she flipped to German, sharp, efficient, native-level precision. Spanish next. Later, he'd hear her whispering lullabies to her son in Italian. She read the food label aloud to him in Arabic, and then, when he got fussy with the in-flight cartoon menu, calmed him in fluent Mandarin. 7 languages. 7. On a crowded economy flight, in sweatpants with one torn knee, nursing a plastic cup of juice and a half-eaten granola bar. She didn't even look up when she did it. Didn't brag. Didn't hesitate. Just existed, like this was normal, like being brilliant didn't matter because surviving was the only thing that did. Miles closed his laptop. 3 hours in, turbulence rattled the trays. Aiden spilled juice on his shirt and burst into tears, not loud, not dramatic, just that small quiet panic kids do when they know their mom is already holding too much. Isabella kissed the top of his head. Shoo. It's just juice, baby. We've survived worse, haven't we? And then she switched, instantly, to Turkish. Not for show. Just instinct. Something in the rhythm calmed Aiden. His sobs slowed. The men beside her, clearly annoyed moments before, now sat stunned. Isabella didn't know it, but every time she changed languages, eyes followed her. Even the flight attendant whispered to another crew member, "Who is she?" She didn't see any of that. Her eyes were locked on Aiden and the in-flight map, her finger tracing the blue line like it was a timeline of survival. In row 1A, Miles Carter made a call. Low voice. Private channel. Brad, cancel the Zurich car. Yeah, I'll need a different pickup. And Brad, look up a woman on this flight. Isabella Grant. Get me everything, quietly. He rarely made spontaneous moves. But this wasn't about impulse. It was recognition. He didn't know her story yet, but he knew grit when he saw it. And something else. The way she moved like life had tried to silence her, but she still spoke, 7 damn languages, no less. When the plane landed in Zurich, the seatbelt sign dinged off. Passengers scrambled to grab bags. Isabella told Aiden to stay seated until the aisle cleared. She knew the dance, let others rush, survive in silence. But this time, as she bent down to zip up Aiden's hoodie, a deep voice spoke behind her. Excuse me, Miss Grant. She turned, confused. The man was tall, maybe late 30s, tailored but not flashy. Sharp eyes. Quiet confidence. She had no idea who he was. Yes. I'm Miles Carter. She blinked. The name didn't register right away. I was sitting up front. I couldn't help but notice. She stiffened. If you're here to compliment my parenting or tell me how impressed you are that a poor single mom can string a sentence together, don't bother. He smiled faintly. Actually, I came to offer you a job. The terminal lights flickered. The air felt too thin. What? He handed her a card. Simple white. Embossed with only 3 words, Carter Global Foundation. I'm serious. Meet me tomorrow. Bring your son. She didn't move. Didn't even breathe. Why? She whispered. He looked her in the eye. Because brilliance like yours shouldn't be surviving, it should be leading. Then he walked off into the crowd, his own luggage handled by someone she didn't even see. Aiden tugged her sleeve. Mom, who was that man? Isabella stared at the card. Her hands were trembling. I don't know, she said. But something tells me, everything just changed. Zurich felt like a movie set the next morning. Crisp air, clean sidewalks, the kind of polished quiet Isabella only ever saw in photos. But inside her, the world hadn't caught up. Her stomach turned like she'd swallowed rocks, and her mind kept replaying the billionaire's voice on loop. Brilliance like yours shouldn't be surviving, it should be leading. She didn't believe him. Not really. Which is why she showed up. The Carter Global Foundation headquarters didn't look like anything she expected. No glass palace. No cold chrome tower. It was an old converted university building tucked into a side street with ivy crawling up one side. A receptionist with gray curls and warm eyes handed her a visitor badge without even asking her name. He's waiting for you upstairs. Conference room B. And your son is welcome to stay with us here. We've got books and snacks. Aiden clung to her, wary. Isabella knelt. I'll be right upstairs, okay. No more than an hour. Aiden didn't cry. He never cried in public. But he whispered, don't leave me here if they're lying. She froze. That sentence told her how much he'd seen in 6 years. I won't, she promised. Not ever. Conference room B looked like it belonged in a university. Long table, chalkboard wall, windows that let in real air. No tech. No pressure. Just Miles Carter at the head of the table, sleeves rolled to his elbows, sipping coffee. I thought you wouldn't come, he said, standing. I almost didn't, she replied, arms crossed. Is this where you pitch me your charity case project? Film me crying for a campaign. He didn't flinch. No cameras. No pity. He gestured to a chair. Just an offer. She sat, rigid. I asked my team to run your name. Isabella Grant. Born in Chicago. Top of your class in linguistics at Columbia. Masters in computational translation, never finished your PhD, started a tech startup, walked away after your co-founder stole the code. Then, nothing. She didn't answer. I also know you were raising your son alone after your ex disappeared overseas. And that you worked at 5 different companies in 7 years, never staying long enough to get promoted. You're very thorough, she said flatly. I'm curious. He leaned forward. You're a ghost on paper, but yesterday I watched you speak 7 languages with the kind of fluency you can't fake. And you weren't trying to impress anyone. Because impressing people doesn't pay rent, she snapped. No, he agreed, but solving real problems can. He opened a folder. Inside were papers. A proposal. I want you to lead a new program at Carter Global. It's called Language Ladder, a tech and human solution to breaking language barriers in refugee education systems. We're building translation tools powered by real dialect speakers, not algorithms. You'd lead the linguistic side. Full control. Build your own team. Isabella laughed, sharp and tired. That's insane. Why? I haven't worked in tech in 5 years. I don't even have a laptop. I live in borrowed spaces. I don't have a resume anymore, Miles. Exactly. He slid the contract forward. You have nothing to lose. And everything we need. She stared at it. $200,000 base. Benefits. A private apartment in Zurich for her and Aiden. Full-time school placement for him. Daycare if needed. Full health. Full relocation. It didn't feel real. She didn't cry. Not yet. But her voice cracked. Why me? Miles took a moment before answering. Because I spent most of my life surrounded by smart people who wanted to sound brilliant. You're different. You speak to connect. I watched you comfort your son in Turkish. Calm a stranger in Spanish. You didn't care who was watching. You just did what was needed. She blinked. Her hands trembled. And one more thing, he said. You remind me of my mother. She looked up. Surprised. She was a waitress. Spoke 5 languages. No one ever hired her for anything but cleaning or serving tables. But she built my entire foundation, everything I stand on. I couldn't save her life, Isabella. But maybe I can help change yours. She said nothing for a long time, then whispered, and if I fail, then we'll try again. But you won't. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat in the guest house the foundation placed her in, staring out the window while Aiden slept on a real bed, wrapped in new sheets, beside a teddy bear someone had thoughtfully left on the pillow. The fear didn't leave her. Because survival had always taught her not to trust good things. Good things got ripped away. But as dawn cracked over Zurich, Isabella picked up the pen. Signed her name. Not for herself. For the boy sleeping beside her who deserved to see his mother finally rise. The office wasn't ready for Isabella. They smiled, politely, tightly, the way people do when they're told to make space for someone who hasn't earned it the hard way. She saw it in the glances. The stiff posture when she entered a room. The quick shutdowns of conversations when she passed. She wasn't stupid. She just refused to act like she didn't notice. Her first week on the language ladder project felt like being handed the wheel of a train already off track. The dev team was 2 months behind schedule. The codebase was a mess. The linguists were brilliant but uncoordinated. And the former lead, Lucas Brennan, a Golden Boy Stanford grad, had quietly resigned the day after she arrived. No explanation. No farewell email. "I wonder why," she muttered, reviewing his code notes. Miles hadn't said anything about Brennan, but it was obvious the man had left claw marks behind. People liked him. People missed him. And now here she was, Isabella Grant, the mystery mom from Coach class, running the project he built. By week 3, the whispers were louder. She got hired because she has a sob story. Probably sleeping with Miles. Why else would he give her control? She didn't even finish her PhD. You know that, right? Her kids always hanging around the office. This isn't a daycare. She heard it all. Smiled through it. Ate lunch alone. But she also worked. Harder than anyone. She redrew the entire project timeline. Reassigned tasks by strength, not seniority. Brought in real refugees and asylum seekers to test the translation models, people who'd lived in camps, crossed oceans, survived war zones. She threw out every academic theory that didn't match real-world application. By month 2, performance metrics jumped 38%. The dev team stopped fighting. The linguists stayed late. The silence turned into curiosity. Curiosity into respect. Until one email shattered everything. Subject: Past employee misconduct, Isabella Grant. From Anonymous. 2. Carter Global HR, Executive Board. Attached, Police Report, 2019, Custody Court Filings, University Disciplinary Notes. The subject of this report is currently employed as Program Lead for Language Ladder. Below are findings of concern regarding past ethical violations, falsified research, and unstable mental health history. Recommend full investigation. The room spun when HR called her in. The report pulled from everything she'd buried. Her name had been on a campus incident, an angry altercation with her former co-founder. They'd stolen her code and gaslit her until she snapped in a meeting and was escorted out by security. The footage had gone viral in certain circles, painted her as unstable. She never recovered professionally. Her ex, the man who vanished when Aiden was 2, had filed paperwork accusing her of psychological instability to block her from moving overseas. The case was dismissed, but the stain remained. Even the university had documented that she was combative and difficult to work with. No context. No mercy. Now, it was all out. Miles called her to the rooftop garden. Private. Quiet. Cold wind skimming the skyline. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice steady. "Because I didn't think I'd get the chance," she said. "And if I had, would you have hired me?" He didn't answer. That hurt more than anything. "Miles, I lost everything. That startup was mine. I built it from scratch. Then one white boy with a smile and a trust fund took the credit, stole my code, and flipped the narrative. The university told me to let it go. My ex told the court I was crazy. I've been cleaning up that mess for years." She stood, trembling. "So if you want to fire me, go ahead. I've survived worse." Miles didn't speak for a full minute. Then, "Whoever sent that email knew exactly when to strike. You were getting too visible. Too respected." Isabella blinked. "You believe me?" "I believe what I saw. A woman who rebuilt a dying project in 2 months. Who speaks 7 languages. Who tucks her son in at her desk when no one's watching." He stepped forward. "Do you think I haven't seen darkness too? I didn't get here clean, Isabella." Her eyes welled. "Then why does it still feel like this could be ripped away?" she whispered. "Because it almost was." Then he reached into his coat pocket and handed her a folder. She opened it. Inside, a legal document. Official company announcement. Carter Global Foundation was naming her Director of Global Inclusion Initiatives. Permanent. Senior level. Board reporting line. But, her voice cracked. "After everything they said. They'll say worse when you make more noise. That's how you know you're doing it right." She laughed, wet, choked, unbelieving. "But Miles, what about the board?" "I am the board." That night, she took Aiden to the Christmas market. He ate roasted chestnuts. She drank warm cider. Snow fell like something sacred. Aiden looked up at her, smiling. "Mom, are we staying here forever?" She didn't answer right away. Then, "We're not just staying, baby. We're building something new." 6 months later, Isabella Grant stood on a TEDx stage in Amsterdam. Not in heels. Not in a power suit. In black jeans, boots, and a soft navy sweater that still had a tiny paint smudge from Aiden's school project. She hated stage lights. Hated the way silence could feel like a trap. But she wasn't speaking to impress. She was speaking for every woman who had been told she was too much, too emotional, too damaged, too loud, or not polished enough to lead. Behind her, the screen read, "Language isn't just words, it's survival." And in the front row, right between two foundation board members, Aiden sat with a juice box in his lap. They said her story was impossible. That no single mom who'd been erased and humiliated could rebuild herself in less than a year. But it wasn't magic. It was truth. She didn't climb a ladder. She kicked open a door no one thought she belonged behind. Language Ladder was now operating in 19 countries. Refugee children were learning faster because of her systems. Women, like her, were being hired as cultural and dialect mentors across continents. And she hadn't forgotten the names of every person who whispered she was a fluke. But the real twist didn't come on stage. It came off it. She saw him before he spoke. Leaning by the back exit, older than she remembered, worn at the edges, still holding that same manipulative stillness that once charmed judges and ruined her custody fight. Aiden's father. Alec. Her chest tightened. "I just want to talk," he said, raising both hands. "I have nothing left to give you," she replied. "I saw the news. The interviews. Look, I'm proud of you." She laughed. "You don't get to be proud. I was scared. That's why I left." "You weren't scared. You were selfish." Her voice was steel. "You saw a woman who wouldn't break the way you wanted, so you vanished. And then tried to erase me from our son's life." He looked down. "I thought maybe I could get to know him now." Isabella didn't yell. She didn't cry. She looked him in the eye and said, "You don't know his favorite color. You don't know how he holds his pencil. You haven't earned him. And you won't get near him until he asks to know you, not the other way around." Alec flinched. She didn't. "You can take that guilt and go." Later that night, back at their apartment, Aiden was drawing superheroes at the kitchen table. "Mama," he said. "Was that man someone you used to know?" She didn't lie. "Yes." "Is he going to bother us?" "No," she said. "Not anymore." He nodded, like that was enough. Then he held up a drawing. "This is you. You're the one with the lightning cape." She smiled. "What's my power? You speak every language, and no one can lie to you. You always know." She tucked his curls behind his ear. "That's not a power, baby. That's survival." 1 year later, Miles Carter stood at a glass podium in Geneva, reading a short announcement. "I'm stepping down from day-to-day leadership of Carter Global Foundation. Effective immediately, our new CEO will be Isabella Grant." The room froze. Gasps. Whispers. And then, applause. She walked to the stage, shoulders square, heart pounding. Miles met her halfway, handed her the foundation pin, once his, now hers. "You built this," he whispered. Time they knew. She looked at the room. At the stunned faces, the media, the doubters. And said only this. "My name is Isabella Grant. I am a single mother. I have failed, survived, and spoken my truth in 7 languages. Today, I speak it in 1. Then she smiled. And the world finally heard her.